Have you ever found yourself wondering, what's the real meaning of this life? Or, how can I find genuine peace and happiness in this chaotic world? I bet deep down, all of us have wrestled with these big questions at some point, feeling that deep yearning to find something more, some profound truth about ourselves and the universe. If you're on that quest right now, or even if you're just curious and looking for a fresh perspective, a powerful source of inspiration, then today's video is absolutely for you. We're diving deep into a literary masterpiece that has touched millions of hearts, a book often called a lighthouse in a stormy night for the soul. The incredible Siddhartha by the Nobel Prize-winning German author Hermann Hesse. And get this, did you know that Paulo Coelho, the author of The Alchemist, that inspiring story about Santiago and his treasure, has shared that he himself had a profound awakening thanks to Siddhartha? He first read it back in 1967 during a really tough time, even while in a psychiatric hospital. He credits this book, in part, with helping him find his enlightenment and get back on his path. Isn't that incredible? The sheer power a single book can hold to change a life. So what makes Siddhartha so special? Why does it have such a potent and lasting impact across generations? Today on BookSmart Insights, we're not just going to skim the plot. We're going to plunge into the philosophical depths of Siddhartha's world, peel back the layers of meaning, and most importantly, extract the priceless lessons this book offers for our own personal development journeys. So grab your favorite drink, open your minds and hearts, and let's embark on this adventure into the world of Siddhartha together. Before we jump into Siddhartha, the character's story, I think understanding a bit about the author, Hermann Hesse, and the circumstances surrounding the book's creation will give us a much richer appreciation for its value. You see, Siddhartha isn't just a fictional tale. It's also a mirror reflecting the author's own painful, yet incredibly powerful, journey of searching for meaning and self-healing. Hermann Hesse, 1877 to 1962, was a German-Swiss poet, novelist, and painter, considered one of the literary giants of the 20th century. But his life was far from easy. Born into a family of pietist missionaries and academics, Hesse was a rebellious, sensitive soul from a young age, always craving freedom. He dropped out of seminary and worked various odd jobs, bookseller's apprentice, clock tower mechanic, before finding his calling in writing. Perhaps the biggest turning point, the crucible that forged much of his later work, was World War I. Hesse, a staunch pacifist, spoke out loudly for peace and human compassion. This made him an enemy in the eyes of the fervent nationalism sweeping Germany at the time. His own homeland turned against him. Society condemned him. Friends and colleagues shunned him and labeled him a traitor, a coward. This immense pressure weighed heavily on his already sensitive spirit. But misfortune, as they say, rarely comes alone. In the few short years that followed, tragedy struck his family repeatedly. His beloved father passed away. His youngest son, Martin, fell seriously ill and also died young. His wife, Maria Bernoulli, suffered a severe mental breakdown after these consecutive shocks and had to be institutionalized. Their marriage crumbled. Financially, they were ruined. Hesse himself spiraled into a deep personal crisis, battling severe depression and even contemplating suicide. Can you imagine? A man facing hostility from society, the grief of losing loved ones, the burden of a broken family, and an intense inner war. These were the darkest years of Hermann Hesse's life. He felt lost, adrift, the meaning of life seemingly evaporated. It was during this period of utter despair that Hesse turned to psychoanalysis. He underwent therapy sessions with Dr. Joseph Lang, a student of Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology. This process helped Hesse confront his deep-seated traumas and explore the hidden corners of his own subconscious. It was also during this time that he deepened his engagement with Eastern philosophy and religion, particularly Hinduism and Buddhism, ideas he'd been exposed to earlier through his family. His grandfather had been a missionary in India. Siddhartha was written between 1919 and 1922, right after this horrifying crisis. That's why many critics believe that writing Siddhartha wasn't just an act of artistic creation for Hesse. It was a form of therapy, a journey of self-healing. He poured his own struggles, his seeking, his suffering, and his hopes for enlightenment into the character of Siddhartha. The book is a distillation of painful personal experiences, profound reflections on the human soul, and a fascinating blend of Western thought, psychoanalysis, and Eastern wisdom. As Carl Jung himself reportedly commented on Siddhartha, comparing it to a lighthouse in a stormy night, it doesn't just illuminate the path for the character in the story. It has the power to light the way for souls lost in the storms of life. When we read Siddhartha, we're not just reading a story about an ancient Indian youth seeking enlightenment. We're also listening to the heart of Hermann Hesse, a man who journeyed through the depths of suffering to find the light of truth and peace. That's why the book resonates so powerfully. It's authentic, it's profound, and it touches upon the timeless questions of human existence. Now, let's step into the journey of the main character, Siddhartha himself, and see what paths he walked, what challenges he faced, and what he ultimately discovered. Our story opens with Siddhartha, a young man who seemingly has everything anyone could desire. He was born into a Brahmin family, the highest priestly and intellectual caste in ancient Indian society. This means, right from the starting line, he's positioned in a place many strive their whole lives just to approach. Picture Siddhartha as a handsome, intelligent young man, deeply learned in the Vedas, ancient scriptures, and religious rituals. He's the pride of his parents, a role model for his peers, and the object of admiration for countless young women. Everyone loves and respects him, placing immense expectations on his shoulders. They believe he'll become a great Brahmin priest, a renowned sage. Govinda, his closest friend, looks up to him with unwavering admiration and vows to follow him anywhere. Siddhartha's life path seems paved with roses and glory. Yet, paradoxically, amidst all this adoration and these perfect circumstances, Siddhartha's soul is anything but peaceful. Deep inside, he feels a gnawing ache, an unnameable emptiness. He performs the rituals, chants the mantras, and meditates exactly as his teachers instruct. But he feels these actions only scratch the surface. They fail to quench the intense thirst burning within his spirit. Siddhartha's suffering doesn't stem from a lack of material wealth or social status. His suffering comes from a profound sense of incompleteness. He diligently studies the scriptures about Atman, the sacred true self, the eternal soul, the unchanging core residing within every being, which is part of Brahman, the ultimate reality, the universe. The ultimate goal for a Brahmin is to realize and merge with this Atman, achieving liberation, moksha. But Siddhartha feels he only knows about Atman through books and the words of others. He hasn't truly touched it, but he felt it through his own direct experience. His soul remains restless and uncertain. He craves an absolute truth, a complete enlightenment, something transcendent beyond mere rituals and doctrines. One never reaches home, but wherever friendly paths intersect, the whole world looks like home for a time. Hermann Hesse. While not explicitly about leaving home, it captures the journey aspect. Siddhartha realizes that the path laid out for him, however glorious it may seem, isn't the path leading to the truth he seeks. He cannot continue living in false security, repeating others' teachings without validation from his own soul. He knows that to find the real treasure, he must dare to let go of what he has, even if it's a fortune in both material and spiritual terms. And so, young Siddhartha makes a bold, shocking decision. He will leave his family, renounce his status, abandon his bright future as a Brahmin, and join the Samanas, wandering ascetics who live without homes, possessions, practicing extreme self-denial to seek enlightenment. This is a pivotal moment. It showcases Siddhartha's extraordinary courage, daring to face the unknown, defying the expectations of society and family, and leaving his comfort zone for an uncertain journey. He understands that truth isn't found outside, in accolades or status, but within, and it can only be discovered through direct experience and confrontation. Life as a Samana is the polar opposite of everything Siddhartha knew. He and Govinda spend 3 long years practicing extreme austerity. They learn to conquer the body, renouncing all worldly desires. They eat sparsely, often fasting to the point of exhaustion. They endure scorching sun burning their skin and freezing rain chilling their bones. They walk barefoot on sharp stones, ignoring the thorns tearing at their flesh. They meditate for hours, trying to annihilate the individual ego to reach a state of selflessness. During those 3 years, Siddhartha masters many skills, enduring pain, controlling his breath, and detaching his mind from his body. He can fast longer, endure cold better, and meditate deeper than any other Samana. His friend Govinda is quite satisfied, believing they've made significant progress on their spiritual path. But Siddhartha, once again, feels unfulfilled. He realizes that no matter how much he disciplines his body, no matter how well he masters surface desires, the core essence, the Atman he seeks, remains elusive. He perceives that asceticism is actually another form of escaping the self, not transforming it. It's like taking a temporary anesthetic to numb the pain of human existence, rather than addressing the root cause. He's only learned how to endure, not how to find truth. Trying to kill the ego seems only to make it more subtle. I can fast, I can wait, I can think. Siddhartha reflects on what he learned from the Samanas. But he recognizes these skills aren't enough to bring him enlightenment. Hearing news of the appearance of Gautama the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, the one said to have achieved supreme enlightenment, Siddhartha and Govinda decide to seek him out and listen to his teachings. Standing before the Buddha, a truly enlightened being, radiating peace and profound wisdom, Siddhartha deeply feels the greatness and truth in his teachings about the 4 noble truths, the Eightfold Path, the origin of suffering, and the way to end it. The Buddha's words are clear, logical, and incredibly compelling. His friend Govinda is immediately captivated and decides to take refuge, becoming a disciple, convinced this is the path to liberation they've been searching for. But Siddhartha, after expressing deep respect for the Buddha and his teachings, makes another distinct choice. He decides not to stay. He will not follow the Buddha. Why? This is an incredibly powerful and often debated point in the book. Siddhartha explains to the Buddha that while he completely believes in the Buddha's enlightenment, he realizes something crucial. The enlightenment and wisdom the Buddha attained are the results of the Buddha's own personal experience. These insights, no matter how brilliantly explained, cannot be directly transferred to someone else. The Buddha's teachings, Dharma, are like a precious map, showing the way, but each person must walk that path themselves, stumble, get up, and explore for themselves to truly reach the destination. He essentially tells the Buddha, I cannot learn the secret of enlightenment from the teachings of anyone, not even you, O enlightened one. Because that enlightenment is yours, the result of your journey. I must go my own way, experience things for myself, find my own understanding. Siddhartha recognizes that knowledge can be taught and learned, but wisdom must be earned through personal experience. Following a teacher, no matter how great, carries the risk of becoming merely that teacher's shadow, repeating their words without genuine inner understanding. It's akin to the Barnum effect psychologists later described. We easily accept generalized external information, view ourselves through others' lenses, and forget to look deep within our unique selves. This first leg of Siddhartha's journey offers us a vital lesson about seeing the self. Firstly, dare to confront dissatisfaction. Don't fear feelings of restlessness, emptiness, or doubt about your current situation, even if life seems perfect on the surface. These feelings might be the first call from your soul, urging you to seek something deeper. As Socrates famously said, the unexamined life is not worth living. Bravely question your current existence. Secondly, recognize your limits and the limits of predefined paths. Don't blindly follow established patterns or societal familial expectations. Ask yourself if that path truly aligns with your deepest aspirations. Also, recognize the limitations of any single method, even seemingly lofty spiritual practices like asceticism. No single path is right for everyone. Thirdly, wisdom comes from personal experience. Book knowledge and others' teachings are valuable, but they only become your wisdom when you test them, live them, and experience them yourself. Don't be afraid to dive in. Don't fear making mistakes. It's these experiences, successes and failures alike, that truly shape you and bring profound understanding. As Albert Einstein reportedly said, the only source of knowledge is experience. Fourthly, have the courage to choose your own path. Most importantly, dare to listen to your inner voice and bravely walk your own path, even if it differs from the crowd, even if it requires leaving familiar comforts behind. The journey of self-discovery is often a solitary one, but deeply meaningful. Many readers find the moment Siddhartha declines to follow the Buddha incredibly striking. One comment on Goodreads reads, "This detail really made me think." It shows Siddhartha's incredible independence and courage. He respects the Buddha, but he respects his personal journey more. It reminds me that nobody can live my life for me, and nobody can achieve enlightenment for me. So Siddhartha sets off again, alone. He has realized the limits of practicing detachment from the world, the limits of relying solely on theory and discipline. He feels the need to live, to experience this secular world, to understand it, and through understanding it, to understand himself. His next journey will lead us to the second crucial lesson. Leaving behind the path of austerity and even the guiding light of the Buddha's structured teachings, Siddhartha enters the world he had previously tried so hard to avoid, the world of everyday life, of desires, colors, and sounds. He's no longer seeking Atman in some distant realm or through self-mortification. He decides that this world, this life, in all its messy reality, is where he needs to learn. He wanders through villages and cities, observing people's lives. He no longer sees them through the eyes of a Brahmin priest or a Samana ascetic, but through the eyes of someone hungry to understand. He watches merchants haggle, artisans toil, children play, lovers embrace. All of it seems vibrant, each element holding its own beauty and meaning. And then, destiny leads him to two new teachers, masters of the material and sensual world. The first teacher is Kamala, the teacher of love and pleasure. Kamala is a beautiful, intelligent, Kamala, and experienced courtesan. She teaches Siddhartha not just the art of physical love, but also how to converse, dress elegantly, and enjoy the refined pleasures of high society. Siddhartha, driven by curiosity and the thirst for experience, quickly learns and immerses himself in this awakened world of the senses. He discovers a different side of himself, a sensual, desire-filled aspect he had always tried to suppress. The second teacher is Kamaswami, the teacher of business and money. To afford the luxurious life with Kamala, Siddhartha seeks out Kamaswami, a wealthy but perpetually worried and busy merchant. Kamaswami teaches him how to make money, conduct business, and calculate profits. Siddhartha, with his innate intelligence, swiftly becomes a successful businessman. He earns a great deal of money, lives in comfort, and gains social standing. Initially, Siddhartha approaches this worldly life with a certain detachment. He views everything, love, money, relationships, as a kind of game. He learns, he experiences, but tries to maintain a distance, believing he won't be consumed by it. He thinks he's just borrowing this life for learning purposes. But humans are easily swept away by life's currents, especially when temptations are so sweet. Hermann Hesse masterfully portrays this process with deep psychological insight. Forgetting oneself and falling doesn't happen suddenly. It creeps into Siddhartha's soul quietly, gradually. Slowly, the initial mindfulness fades. Siddhartha stops seeing it as a game. He becomes truly immersed. Sensual pleasure. He grows dependent on his affairs with Kamala, constantly seeking stimulation from physical intimacy. Material greed. Making money transforms from a means to an end. He gets caught in the vortex of profit and possession. He becomes like Kamaswami, anxious about gains and losses, constantly calculating. The inner peace he once knew as a Samana evaporates, replaced by the stress and insecurity of a merchant. Fleeting thrills. He plunges into gambling to find excitement, to escape the emptiness and boredom creeping into his soul. Wine becomes a frequent companion. Loss of compassion. He no longer cares for the poor and suffering, and no longer gives alms to beggars as he might have before. His heart hardens. He becomes selfish, preoccupied only with himself and his pleasures. Siddhartha is completely lost. He loses himself in greed, possessiveness, and an insatiable hunger for more. He becomes the very type of person that his younger, idealistic Brahmin or Samana self would have scorned. The ego he tried to dissolve through austerity now inflates in a different guise, the ego of wealth, desire, and social status. He is trapped in the cycle of samsara, the worldly round of suffering. As someone once said, like toothpaste, once human desire is squeezed out, it's very hard to put back in. Siddhartha has tasted the sweetness of the world, and now he cannot escape its allure. He feels weary, disillusioned, and disgusted with himself. Self-loathing reaches its peak. Siddhartha realizes how many years he has wasted chasing fleeting things, only to be left with emptiness and misery. He feels worse than the ordinary people he once observed, because they lived their desires naturally, while he, a seeker of truth, deliberately dove in only to be drowned. In utter despair, without a word of farewell to Kamala or Kamaswami, Siddhartha leaves. He wanders to the riverbank, the same river he crossed years ago to enter the secular world. Now, staring into the rushing water, he wants only to throw himself in, to end this meaningless existence. He feels trapped, with no way out. But just as he's about to yield to the water's pull, a sound resonates from the depths of his soul. It's the sacred syllable Om, the primordial sound of the universe he learned back in his Brahmin youth, a sound symbolizing unity and wholeness. That sound strikes him like a lightning bolt, awakening him. He suddenly grasps a crucial truth. Everything he just went through, the greed, the wealth, the pleasure, the suffering, the despair, it was all necessary. He had to experience it. He had to fall into the abyss to learn how to resist it. He had to taste the bitterness of desire to truly understand its nature. He couldn't just stand aside, observe, or condemn the worldly life. He had to live it, be it, and then transcend it from within. He understands that trying to flee desire as a Samana was just as misguided as drowning in it as a merchant. Both were extremes. The truth lay somewhere in between, or perhaps encompassed both. This awakening is different from the first. It doesn't come from reason or analysis, but from the depths of experience, from accepting his whole self, including the darkest parts. He learns to accept the nature of the world and, strangely, feels a sense of joy in belonging to it. As the philosopher Soren Kierkegaard said, life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced. Siddhartha finally understands this. This phase of rolling up his sleeves and getting involved in worldly life gives us the second essential lesson: seeing the world, experiencing to cultivate the self. No experience is wasted. Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty in life, even in aspects that seem mundane or negative. Every experience, success or failure, joy or pain, purity or mistake, is a necessary lesson on the path of growth. As Jack Kerouac wrote, "I saw that my life was a vast, glowing, empty page, and I could do anything I wanted." Every step and every encounter adds to who you become. Truth must be tested in reality. Reading philosophy, listening to teachings, or consuming self-help content is good. But until you apply it to your life, until you face real challenges yourself, that knowledge remains a mere theory. Why do people say, "I know all the theories, but my life still sucks"? Perhaps because they haven't truly lived those theories, haven't turned them into action and personal experience. You learn about yourself when you interact with people and navigate real situations. Understanding comes from confrontation, not avoidance. Trying to avoid desires or the ugly parts of ourselves, like Siddhartha as a Samana, doesn't help us understand or transform them. Sometimes we need to face them directly, even taste them to some extent, with awareness, to truly grasp their power and allure. Only then can we master them. Life is the best school. The world around you, the people you meet, the work you do, the difficulties you face, is the ultimate practice ground for self-development. Don't seek enlightenment only in serene retreats or books. Learn to find lessons in every circumstance, every relationship. As Henry David Thoreau said about living at Walden Pond, "I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived." Life isn't about how much you acquire, but how you experience. Many readers share that Siddhartha's period of worldly immersion is the part they relate to most. One person wrote, "I saw myself in Siddhartha during this phase. Who among us hasn't been swept away by money, status, or fleeting pleasures?" Hesse's portrayal of human psychology is so real. But the crucial part is that Siddhartha realized it and woke up. It gives me hope that no matter how lost we get, we can always find our way back. After his awakening by the river, Siddhartha feels a new kind of peace. He no longer despises his past. He accepts it as an integral part of his journey. And now, he is ready for a new stage, a deeper level of understanding, where he will learn the final and most profound lesson. After his second awakening, Siddhartha feels reborn. He looks at the river not with suicidal intent, but with gratitude and reverence. He senses a powerful life force, a deep wisdom flowing within its waters. He decides to stay by the river, and then he meets Vasudeva, the old ferryman. Vasudeva is unlike Siddhartha's previous teachers. He doesn't preach doctrines, enforce discipline, or care about worldly success. He simply lives in harmony with the river, quietly ferrying passengers across day after day and listening. He possesses a serenity, a wisdom that emanates from his very being, his simple presence. Siddhartha asks to stay and learn the ferryman's trade from Vasudeva. The old man gladly accepts. He tells Siddhartha something simple yet profound. The river knows everything. You can learn everything from the river. And so, Siddhartha begins a new life, simple and quiet, beside the ferryman and the river. He learns to row the boat, to read the currents, to listen to the river's whispers. He's no longer striving for something lofty. He simply observes and listens. He sits by the riverbank for hours, day after day, letting go of distracting thoughts and allowing his soul to merge with the flow. He begins to hear not just the sound of water, but myriad other sounds within it. Laughter, weeping, voices of anger, love, the groans of the dying, the sighs of the longing. Thousands of voices of life seem to converge in the river's song. Siddhartha's peaceful life by the river is disrupted by a major event. One day, a group of pilgrims wants to cross, among them a weary woman leading a young boy. The woman is none other than Kamala, Siddhartha's former lover. Fate can be ironic. Kamala, after Siddhartha left, discovered she was pregnant. She gave birth to a son, Siddhartha's son, gave up her life as a courtesan, and decided to follow the path of the Buddha. Now, she was taking her son on a pilgrimage to see the Buddha before his passing. But on the way, she was bitten by a venomous snake. Meeting Siddhartha again by the river, Kamala recognizes him. But before they can exchange many words, she breathes her last in his arms, managing only to entrust their son to his care. Siddhartha gazes at his once beautiful lover, now just a lifeless body. His heart fills with sorrow, and he feels the profound impermanence of life. Yet at the same time, the appearance of his son, his own flesh and blood, awakens within him an intense love he's never known before. He feels responsible, wanting to compensate, to protect this unfortunate child. He pours all his effort into loving, nurturing, and caring for the boy, also named Siddhartha. He wants to win his son's heart and teach him his ways, hoping the boy will also learn wisdom from the river as he has. However, the child, accustomed to a life of comfort and freedom, completely rejects his unfamiliar father and the poor, monotonous life by the river. He becomes defiant, lazy, and disrespectful, constantly rebelling against Siddhartha. He misses his mother and his old life, and sees Siddhartha as the one who took everything he loved away. The boy bluntly says he'd rather be a robber or murderer than live with this father. He just wants to leave. Siddhartha is deeply hurt. He loves his son desperately and worries about his future if he leaves alone. He tries to hold him back, persuade him, even force him to stay, believing he's doing what's best, that he can protect him from the world's pitfalls that he himself experienced. Vasudeva, the wise ferryman, advises Siddhartha, "Water flows to the ocean. Your son will find his own way too. You cannot shield him from his destiny. Let him go." Vasudeva reminds Siddhartha that everyone must live their own life and learn from their own mistakes. Love doesn't mean control or imposition. But Siddhartha, overwhelmed by love and the fear of losing his son, cannot heed the advice at that moment. He stubbornly tries to keep the boy. The result is inevitable. After a fierce argument, the boy takes advantage of Siddhartha sleeping and runs away. Siddhartha wakes up, frantic and heartbroken, and rushes after his son. But as he reaches the edge of the forest, he suddenly stops. A memory floods back, the image of himself, years ago, just as determined to leave his own aging, grieving father who pleaded with him to stay, all so he could follow the path he had chosen. He recognizes the uncanny repetition of fate, the cyclical nature of life. The pain he inflicted on his father back then, he is now experiencing through his own son. He understands that he cannot force his son into his path, just as his father couldn't force him. Everyone has their own destiny, their own journey. True love sometimes requires letting go, accepting, and allowing the loved one the freedom to choose and experience their life, even if that path seems fraught with danger. Devastated and heartbroken, yet having learned a profound lesson, Siddhartha returns to the river. Returning to Vasudeva, Siddhartha pours out his heart. He sits by the river, listening to the ceaseless flow. This time, he no longer tries to distinguish the individual sounds, the laughter, the crying, the anger, the love. He simply listens to it all, and then something miraculous happens. All those sounds, the thousands, tens of thousands of voices of joy and sorrow, good and evil, life and death, cease to be separate, opposing notes. They blend together, melting into each other, becoming a single unified symphony, one complete, harmonious sound. It is the voice of the river, the voice of life itself, the voice of unity, the sound Om. At that moment, Siddhartha attains his final enlightenment. He no longer fights against fate, no longer judges in dualistic terms of right and wrong, good and bad. He realizes that everything in the universe, light and shadow, joy and sorrow, life and death, past and future, are all parts of one great unified whole. They are not opposites, but complements, existing within each other. He understands his son's rebellion. He accepts his departure. He accepts his own pain. He accepts everything that has happened in his life, without judgment, without regret. He sees the world through the eyes of the river, encompassing, accepting, and harmonious. Siddhartha's small individual ego seems to dissolve, merging into the eternal self, into the flow of the universe. He finds true peace, not by eliminating suffering, but by embracing it as part of life. Vasudeva the ferryman smiles, saying he had been waiting for this moment. His task is complete. He quietly bids Siddhartha farewell, walks into the forest, and is never seen again. Siddhartha is now the new ferryman, one who found wisdom not in scriptures or discipline, but in the very flow of life and in deep listening. This final stage, with its experiences of love, loss, and enlightenment by the river, brings us the third and most profound lesson: seeing all beings, accepting and flowing with nature. Learn to listen deeply, not just with your ears, but with your whole heart and soul. Listen to the world around you, listen to others, and most importantly, listen to yourself without judgment. Wisdom often arrives in stillness and listening. Accept impermanence and life's duality. Life is constant change. Nothing lasts forever. Happiness and suffering, gain and loss, life and death always coexist. Instead of resisting or wishing for only one side, learn to accept both as essential parts of the human experience. True peace comes from accepting reality as it is. As the Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh taught, no mud, no lotus. True love involves letting go and respecting freedom. Love doesn't mean possession or control. Sometimes, love requires us to let go, to allow others to live their own lives and walk their own paths, even if it hurts us. Trust in each person's unique journey. Let things flow naturally. Resisting the current of life only brings suffering. Learn to flow with it, accepting what comes and goes with grace. Let unwillingness become willingness. Let misfortune become fortune. Let nothing become everything. When you release control and accept, you find freedom and inner strength. This resonates with the Taoist concept of Wu Wei, effortless action. Find unity in diversity. Transcend dualistic, separative thinking to see the interconnectedness and unity of all things. All life is linked. When you realize this, compassion and acceptance arise naturally. This is the pinnacle of wisdom Siddhartha reached, not by rejecting the world, but by embracing it, not by eliminating suffering, but by understanding and accepting it. Many readers find the final part of the book brings a sense of peace and deep contemplation. One comment noted, "The lesson of acceptance and listening to the river really hit home for me. It helps me view the difficulties in my own life more gently. Sometimes the solution isn't trying to change everything, but changing my own perspective." Before we wrap up the main lessons, I want to spend a little more time on the imagery of the river in Siddhartha. Many of you might be wondering why the river holds such immense power. How could it help Siddhartha achieve enlightenment? The river isn't just a backdrop. It's a profound philosophical symbol, Siddhartha's greatest teacher. The river as a symbol of time. The ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus famously said, "No man ever steps in the same river twice," because both the man and the river have changed. The river is always flowing, always new in every moment. It symbolizes the ceaseless flow of time, the change and impermanence of all things. Everything passes, nothing remains static. Yet, paradoxically, the river is always there. It flows away, yet it exists right here, right now. At any given moment, the river is both itself, unchanging in its existence, and completely new, changing in every instant. It represents the unification of the past, present, and future into a single reality. When Siddhartha learned to listen to the river, he transcended the illusion of linear time. He realized that every moment contains eternity. The past isn't gone. The future is already latent, all converging in the river's eternal now. The river as a symbol of life and unity. As we saw, the river contains countless sounds and myriad voices of life. Joy, sorrow, good, evil, love, hate. It rejects nothing. It embraces all, accepts all, and merges all into a harmonious whole. The river is an image of life in its totality, with all its opposing forces and its seemingly irreconcilable contradictions. When Siddhartha heard that unity in the river, he also realized the unity within himself and the cosmos. He saw that the individual self, always changing, full of conflict, and the eternal self, Atman, unchanging, the ground of being, weren't separate entities, but two aspects of the same reality. Just like the river both flows away and remains. He saw that the differences between himself and others, between humans and nature, between life and death, were merely superficial. Deep down, all is one. The river as a symbol of wisdom flowing with nature. The river doesn't try to flow. It simply flows along its natural course, navigating rocks, winding through landscapes, and eventually merging with the great ocean. It doesn't resist. It doesn't judge. It teaches Siddhartha the lesson of acceptance, patience, and the power of yielding to the natural way, Wu Wei. Listening to the river is listening to silence, listening to wordless truth. The river's wisdom isn't found in complex concepts or rigid doctrines, but in direct experience, in merging oneself with the flow of life itself. So the river in Siddhartha is more than just water. It's a potent metaphor for the nature of reality, time, life, and the path to enlightenment. A path that involves not escaping the world, but immersing oneself in it, listening to it, and accepting it completely. So we've journeyed alongside Siddhartha through his tumultuous yet deeply meaningful life. From the privileged yet restless Brahmin youth to the self-denying ascetic, the desire-drenched merchant, and finally, the enlightened ferryman by the river of wisdom. Siddhartha's life ultimately mirrors the journey that each of us, in one way or another, is undergoing or will undergo. Youth, yearning for ideals, recognizing limitations in ourselves and our surroundings, boldly embarking on paths of discovery, sometimes rebelling against established norms. Lesson 1. Seeing the self. Adulthood, plunging into life, maturity and enlightenment. After the ups and downs, beginning to learn acceptance of reality, letting go of attachments, seeing through impermanence, finding inner peace, learning to love and forgive ourselves and others, living in harmony with the natural flow of life. Lesson 3. Seeing all beings. Siddhartha doesn't offer a single formula for happiness or enlightenment. It doesn't say you must become an ascetic or renounce everything. Instead, it powerfully affirms the value of personal experience and each individual's unique journey. No path is entirely wrong, because every path and every experience contributes to our understanding and growth, as long as we learn from it. As Hermann Hesse himself wrote within the book, paraphrased, "The opposite of every truth is just as true." What does this mean? Love or hate, good or bad, gain or loss, life or death, past or future. All these opposites are part of a single, unified whole. Don't try to choose only one side and reject the other. Learn to see the truth in both, to embrace the complexity and paradox of life. This book reminds us that the source and destination of happiness lie within ourselves. When we dare to look deep inside, dare to engage with life's experiences with an open heart, and dare to learn acceptance, letting go, and loving this world as it truly is, that's when we find meaning and live a full life. I love something Siddhartha says near the end, when his friend Govinda asks him the secret of his enlightenment. Siddhartha replies that wisdom cannot be expressed in words, but love can. Perhaps the most important thing is love. To love this world, not despise it, not hate it and oneself, but to be able to look upon it and oneself and all beings with love, admiration, and reverence. And finally, another quote from the book I want to leave you with, as a final message from Siddhartha. I no longer compare the world to some longed-for, imagined world. I accept the world as it is, love it, and belong to it. All right, my friends, our exploration of Siddhartha comes to a close here. I truly hope that sharing these insights has given you some fresh perspectives, profound lessons, and inspiration for your own personal growth journey. Really is a book you should read and reflect on for yourself. I guarantee that at different stages of your life, each rereading will bring new discoveries and resonate in different ways. It's like a wise friend and companion, always ready to shed light on our path. Please, do check it out. If you found this video helpful and valuable, please show some love by hitting that like button. It really helps support BookSmart Insights. And if you have any thoughts, feelings, or lessons you'd like to share after hearing about Siddhartha, please drop a comment below. I genuinely love hearing your stories and perspectives. Don't forget to share this video with friends or family members who you think might benefit from these meaningful messages. If you're new here or haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell right next to it so you don't miss out on any future videos exploring fascinating books and valuable life lessons from BookSmart Insights. We'll explore many more great reads together. Thank you so much for spending your time listening and joining me throughout this deep dive today. I wish for all of us that we may find our own unique paths, live meaningful and fulfilling lives, and always maintain peace within our souls. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.